Welcome back, guys, and welcome to my first video post Dark Tournament Day 0 builds. And while that was incredibly stressful, it was also very fun, so I hope you guys enjoyed those. If for some reason this is your first video, hi, I'm the UVS Hermit, and I just did a full deck list for every Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament character. So there's a playlist on the channel. You should probably go check that out. And now that I've well rested back up on my mountain, I wanted to talk to you guys about some cards that, going into the Dark Tournament format, that I thought have been quite overlooked. And while these cards aren't the strongest, I do think they deserve a little bit more love than they've been getting lately. So I wanted to go over 10 of these cards that kind of just hold a special place in my little mind palace of when I'm deck building and stuff. So without further ado, the first one is Searing Glacial Storm. This is an attack from Todoroki 2's kit from the My Hero Academia Crimson Rampage set. It is a 5 difficulty, 2 control, 2 high for 6 with a +1 mid block. It has ranged and stun 2 for its keywords. Now, one of the reasons that this card is not used a lot, one is the 2 check. A lot of people don't like 2 checks, but also that this is a first enhance that you can only use if you are an order symbol character. Now, you could be playing as a fire symbol character with all of your cards having the fire symbol, but you can only use this first enhance if your character has the order symbol. So it does lock you pretty hard, but for a good reason. This effect is really powerful. It says both players remove foundations in their stage until they each have 5, end this enhance step. So if you play this as your first attack at a turn, you can drastically reduce your opponent's available resources. Because if they've committed a bunch of face-down foundations, obviously they're going to want to get rid of those, but if they don't have so many committed foundations, or they don't have very many committed foundations at all, you could be removing a good number of ready foundations in your rival stage. Granted, you're going to have to remove your own cards as well, but if you've got plenty of face downs or like blank foundations that don't do anything, this could be really hit or miss for you. But with only one Deadlock card being printed in Dark Tournament, and that's a retro reprint from Botan, who has the order symbol, but you have characters like Kuwabara and Younger Toguro that want to build these huge walls of a stage, 15, 20 foundations. And with Searing Glacial Storm, you can drastically cut them down to 5. And if they're doing a mill strategy like Kuwabara, they're going to cycle a lot faster. So then they have to remove more cards from their deck, further dwindling their resources. And with Younger Toguro, if he doesn't get rid of a lot of his face downs, which are his attacks, he's going to lose possible ways to recur those attacks. Or you're just going to remove attacks from his stage, and he doesn't get to get those back when he cycles. So I think this card is obviously very, very niche. All of these picks are going to be niche, by the way, and these are all totally my opinion. Feel free to disagree or tell me that I'm bad. That's cool. But these are just cards that I really think could use a bit more of a spotlight shined on them. And Searing Glacial Storm is the first up in this set, and I think it's really cool, and especially with a lot of these decks that want to build these deadlock stages, this is a good way to kind of even the odds so that you don't get outbuilt, or if you're losing that building race, you can really even the odds quite quickly. Next we have Extendo Hairstrike. This is a My Hero Academia Heroes Clash card. That's the third My Hero Academia set. It is a 5 difficulty, 3 control, 5 high for 3 with a +1 mid block. It has EX 0, for good reason, ranged and stun 1. So it has an enhance that I think is really, really awesome. It says commit 1 foundation, that's your cost. This attack gets +1 damage and +1 to its EX rating. This enhance is playable any number of times this enhance step. That is super strong. If you are one of these wall characters that wants to build 15, 20 foundations, you could put 15, 20 damage on this card, and with EX 15 plus, you would only need 1 momentum in theory, to guarantee that this bomb hits. I feel like we have a lot of string decks with like Kurama or Genkai or who are some other strings? Rinku, Shishiwakamaru, these decks that want to string out multiple attacks in a turn, but we don't have a lot of decks that really want to do one big bomb. We have Bui, who wants to be a bomb deck, but I think there's a lot of counterplay around string decks. There's obviously counterplay to bomb decks as well, but I think this could be a really cool and interesting bomb that your rival's not going to expect. It also has a deadlock enhance that your next check to play a card gets +5. So if they're in deadlock, you can play this attack and say, this bomb is going to kill you. Or, my next bomb is going to kill you. Pick your poison. So this is really cool. I think my favorite character to play this with is Ingenium, who can give it 3 speed automatically, make it an 8 high for 3, and then if it, I believe he also gives an EX attack +3 damage, so he can give it 3 speed and 3 damage, making it an 8 high 6. And then, if he gives it the 3 speed, every time your rival plays an enhance, you get to ready a foundation, and effectively turning each of your foundations into 2 for this ability, which is really cool. And I just think it's a very underutilized bomb attack when you could just have all sorts of fun with it. Moving on from attacks, we have probably my favorite action ever printed in the current standard format, and that is Hold Hostage, a 5 difficulty, 4 control ally action with a +0 low block. This is from the My Hero Academia League of Villains set. This is one of the secret rares of that set. And it says Enhance Rival's Turn. So you can only play this during your rival's turn. Your rival reveals their hand. Choose one card revealed this way and remove it. Remove it from the game. If a rival attack deals damage this turn, they may destroy one foundation to add the removed card back to their hand. Remove this card when it leaves your card pool. This is such an amazingly defensive and curiously offensive card that the only reason I think it's not seeing a lot of play is the symbol spread and the 5 difficulty. Because the ability to, on your rival's first attack, if you know you're going to block that attack and it's not going to do damage, you get to look at their hand and say, oh, that attack I can't deal with this turn, so we're going to remove it. And then, as long as you can deal with any other attack they have, provided they don't have any sort of, like, blind draw or card searching on their field, they lose that card forever. They don't get the card back if they don't deal damage that turn. So if you have a way to damage redux all of your rival's attacks, or completely block all your rival's attacks, they lose that card, and then, like I said, as long as they haven't blind drawn any cards, you get to go into your turn knowing every block zone and block modifier your rival has. And that kind of information can be deadly. I especially love this card in conjunction with a Undaunted Raid foundation called Unbreakable. You can commit it to destroy a foundation and say if this attack is blocked, it's considered completely blocked. So even if you partially block, you will take no damage. So, to play Hold Hostage, you can play this incredible defense while ripping options out of your opponent's hand, while gaining information for the next turn. And I think it's a really cool pivot card that, honestly, I think doesn't get enough play. Any of these 10 cards, I don't think get enough play for what they can offer. And like I said, they are niche picks, but I still think it's really good to get these cards a little bit more of a spotlight so that people might be able to be interested in some of these niche picks. Next up, we have another action in Ruthless Mockery, a 1/5 with a +3 mid-block and the taunt keyword. This is another League of Villains My Hero Academia action card. It says, response, after you block an attack with this card, your rival's attacks get -2 damage for the rest of the combat phase. Remove this card when it leaves your card pool. And then it has a second enhance, so not the first enhance you do, this enhance step, but the second enhance you do. Remove this card, This attack gets +2 damage, and if it has taunt, draw 1 card and it gains stun 1. We're not going to really worry about that enhance. Excuse me. If I sound a bit rough, it's because it's allergy season. But the response on this action is a critical detriment to these string decks that want to just play for 5 attacks at a turn, because if you're taking 2 damage off of 4 or 5 attacks, that turns a kill turn into a survival, and you can really knock down a bunch of DR, you know, especially on like the life symbol. You can do life gain, you can do damage reduction. I believe off of the void symbol there's some decent damage reduction, and you can just cut your rival's string decks down. This wouldn't be very good against a bomb deck like a Bui or an Extendo Hair, but against these attacks like Echo decks, Echo hates this card because, again, they're turning 1 attack into 2, but that second attack is getting less damage, and then their next attack is getting less damage, their next attack is getting less damage. Muscular on Life loves this card because he wants to take hits but control his rate of descent in his life to then gain a whole bunch of counters. So something like Ruthless Mockery, if you're going against a string deck, could be worth a side deck option if you have trouble with string decks and you have a little bit more damage reduction or life gain. I believe the last of these are all foundations, and the first one is Travel by Tape. This is a 2 difficulty, 4 control, +2 high block foundation from the My Hero Academia Crimson Rampage set. And it says, response, flip. After you block an attack, discard the block from your card pool. That's really good. You're then losing that progressive difficulty on your defensive turn. But I love the enhance. Remove this foundation, change the zone of your rival's attack. We don't see a lot of cards printed that manipulate the zones of our rival's attacks. I think there is an Asui 3 foundation from Jetburn that can do it at the cost of discarding a card from your hand. So you're losing a block. This, you're losing a ready foundation, but if you need to guarantee that full block, then you can guarantee that full block. You can guarantee you're not going to die this turn. And I know it's got a 4-check, and people don't like 4-check foundations, but I think this could be a really cool 2-of defensive piece that can either clear your card pool on defense, or you can guarantee to block the attack that your rival's throwing at you. If it's one of those low-speed, high-damage moves, but it's an off zone, and you don't have that low block or that high block, you can change it. Or say it's a mid attack for some reason, and you only have a high block in your hand. You can change it to high and block with that. We've seen some very solid +0 high and low blocks printed. So, not necessarily mids, unless you have like a character in your deck, like a buddy block. But you could throw this in a deck with one of those +0 low blocks or +0 high blocks to make sure you get the absolute most out of those blocks. And I just think it's really cool, and I don't see a lot of people playing it. Next up, we have Showing Off, another 2/4 foundation, with this one with a +2 low block. It says Enhance Commit. If your attack's speed or damage is at least double its printed value, this attack does not count towards progressive difficulty for the rest of the combat phase. This is, again, another very niche card, but given all of the stats that Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament brings to the table for this set, you have big dunks from, younger Toguro. Elder Toguro can swap speed and damage so that it automatically becomes more than printed. His own Shapeshifting Impalement is a 7 mid 3. If you swap the speed and damage, it is now a 3 mid 7. You can commit Showing Off. It would no longer count towards progressive difficulty. So this is good for extending string decks, especially if those string decks need to play bigger attacks. Something like a Hood deck. Well, Hood might not be a good example because he's a 5-hander, but those like evil high difficulty attack decks, you can slam a bunch of damage or a bunch of speed on like a slow attack, commit Showing Off, it doesn't count towards progressive for the rest of the turn. You can play more of your 5 diff attacks without having to commit multiple cards in your stage. Like I said, not great, but definitely a cool niche piece. Before Nomu was rotated out from set 1, I actually built a local of mine a Nomu deck that ran 4 showing off so that you could always get it off because Nomu could automatically double the damage of pretty much any attack in his deck. And it was all about drawing cards and making them not count and just stacking all this damage on things. It was really, really annoying to deal with once I had to sit down across from it, but again, showing off is one of those cards that is very niche, only fills a certain slot, but I still think it's really fun. And it's from the Heroes Clash My Hero Academia set. I don't know if I said that ahead of time. Moving on, we have Window Shopping, another Heroes Clash foundation. This one's a 2/5 with a +3 mid-block, not the best, but it has a Shoji enhance, so if you are Mezzo Shoji, you are able to use this enhance to discard a momentum and add 2 Dupli Arms counters to your character. That's not why I like this card. I like this card for the form, and a form ability is any ability you could play during your turn, at which point you could normally play a card from your hand. Like if you would play a foundation from your hand during your turn, that's called playing a form. So these effects can be played during your turn. At any point you could play a card from your hand. And it's a flip cost, reveal the top card of your deck. You may play the revealed card as your next form. So if it's down to the wire and you just need to guarantee that you're going to check your card, and you want to make sure there's not a 3 on top, you can flip this card, check the top card of your deck. If it is a 3, you could then attempt to play it as an extra attack and hopefully check that 5 you need to guarantee another attack. Or, if you're out of attacks and you just need one more to push through, you can flip Window Shopping and try to rip an attack off the top of your deck for the win. And since the addition of Undaunted Raid, we've seen a lot of attacks that want to be played from zones other than your hand. And this counts as playing a card from a zone not your hand. So this can trigger effects like that, or it could just give you that one extra attack if you need, or especially if you were able to stack a card on top of your deck to guarantee that it would work with this Window Shopping, like something from your discard pile, or if you were able to peek the top card of your deck and you know it's an attack, Window Shopping can guarantee you get that 3 off the top of your deck. So, very niche, but again, just kind of a cool, fun little tech piece. And then we've got probably my favorite defensive foundation in the game, Convenient Timing. This is a 2/5 with a +2 mid-block, and from the League of Villains set for My Hero Academia. It has a response, discard 1 momentum. After you block with this card, your rival's checks get -1 for the rest of the turn. This is Breaker 1 on every card they play for the rest of the turn, and that can stack up, especially if they check an attack, or if you have more instances of Breaker, or you have ways to commit cards on your opponent's turn. This, much like Ruthless Mockery, can just end a string deck's kill turn. It does have an enhanced flip, add 1 card from either player's discard pile to the bottom of their deck, so you can get a card back if you absolutely need it, or if your rival is doing some weird discard shenanigans, you can put that card back on the bottom of their deck and say, try again, sorry. But mainly, I love it for the response, because I like being able to pivot from defense to offense really well, and being able to Breaker 1 on your first attack, and then your checks get -1 for the rest of the turn. You're going to go into my turn with much fewer resources than you were expecting. So you either have to play very conservatively, in which case I don't die, or you have to try to sell out, in which case if you don't kill me, I'm going to backswing and potentially win the game. So as a pivot piece, this is just an amazing card, and I do not think it sees enough play. Honestly, on any of these symbols, Air, All, and Evil, if I'm playing one of these symbols, I've probably have this as a 2 of in my deck. So if you sit across from me, and I'm playing an Air, Order, or Evil character, just know that could be right around the corner. Then we have Heroic Assistance. This is from the Undaunted Raid My Hero Academia set. It's a 2/5 with a +2 high block and the ally keyword. And it says, response, flip. After 1 or more of your foundations is committed due to a rival effect, ready 2 foundations that have not been readied this combat phase. And then it has a deadlock enhance, flip, look at your rival's hand, you may change the zone of this attack. So the deadlock enhance is cool. If your rival has more than 10 foundations, you get to look at their hand, memorize what block zones they have, and then change the zone of your attack to guarantee that it hits. And then you have that information for the rest of the turn. That's solid. But also the response is the main reason I put this card on this list. With a lot of stun hate cards and foundation readying cards rotating out of set 1, I think this is probably one of the best replacements for it can't be fixed, especially on the good symbol. It is a 2 difficulty as opposed to a 0 difficulty and a +2 high block instead of a +1 high block, but people were very scared to stun 1 if there were multiple copies of it can't be fixed on the board, because then your rival would outbuild your stun. Heroic Assistance says, you commit 1 with stun, I get to ready 2. And it doesn't have to be face down. It could be face up foundations that I haven't readied this combat phase. So I can get access to more defensive enhances if I've already had to use them, or just anything like that. So I think the trading 1 for 2 is an amazingly powerful defensive ability, especially with characters like Rinku, characters like Chu. If Chu sees this on the board, he's automatically targeting this whenever his attacks hit, because he doesn't want you to ready everything back up. He wants to knife edge deathmatch you. But with Rinku, Chu, Toya committing on defense, if Toya commits 1 foundation after they block, you can ready 2 more foundations and keep your string going, because it doesn't say due to a non-character effect or due to a stun effect. So any effect of your rivals that would commit 1 of your cards, Heroic Assistance can ready it, and it is just a very cool, very underutilized defensive foundation. And last but certainly not least, number 5 Pro Hero, a 2/5 with a +3 high block. This is a foundation from Jetburn, from the My Hero Academia sets, and it has 2 abilities. The first is a response, flip. After this attack resolves, flip it. Second is a deadlock form, so a form ability, as long as your rival has 11 or more foundations. You remove this card, discard up to 5 cards from your card pool. So let's talk about the form first. If your rival's in deadlock, and you have been drawing cards, maybe you're playing a string deck, this can clear your card pool and allow you to keep going, which is incredibly strong, especially if your rival has built a wall, which can make it hard to get over something like that. But the main reason I put this card on the list, honestly, this card and Searing Glacial Storm are the reason I made this initial 10 card list in the first place. Because, beasts. Because number 5 Pro Hero, I think, is not only good offensively, like if your character wants you to only have 1 attack in your card pool, or if you can make face down cards not count towards progressive, yeah, that's fine. But what this really is good for is defense. Because if your rival hits you with a throw, which will always deal half damage, even if it's completely blocked, or you have to partial block something, you can flip that rival's attack to deny them that momentum. So you can deny them a resource even though they hit you with an attack. Even if you weren't able to block the attack, you can prevent that card from going to their momentum. Especially cool with Amajiki, since he says at the end phase you can add 1 of your attacks to your momentum face up. So as long as you flip it, it's no longer an attack, they don't get to add that face up. So that's cool tech against Amajiki. But most importantly, we've seen the most Echo cards printed in Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament. So Echo is a responsibility that says, after this attack resolves, discard 1 momentum. You may attempt to play this card as your next form. So your rival plays an Echo attack, it resolves, they discard a momentum to play it as their next form. You can then respond to flip number 5 Pro Hero, flip their Echo card. So after they've paid for the momentum, after the attack resolves, they discard the momentum, you respond to flip after this attack resolves, flip it. They lose their resource, and they lose their attack. It doesn't go to momentum. They can't play it again as their next form because it's no longer face up, so at least I'm pretty sure that's how it would work, how it should work anyway, unless there's some weird niche ruling mystery that I'm unaware of. But from what I can tell, number 5 Pro Hero might be one of the best anti-echo cards that they've printed, and I think it's really, really solid, and I would not be surprised to see this maybe side-decked against Echo on the Chaos, Death, and Fire symbols. I certainly will be, because I don't want to be Rosewhip barraged to death, or Shapeshifting Impalemented to death, or, heaven forbid, Double Spirit Blast. You know, I don't want you to add more to my block modifiers as we're already going, so to flip that so they don't get to play it a second time is really, really powerful. But yeah, these were 10 cards that I thought were pretty niche, pretty forgotten, not the strongest, but could serve some interesting, I lost my word. Could serve some interesting places in your deck building, either offensively or defensively. Yeah, I just thought this would be a fun video to make. Again, sorry I sound so rough. Allergies are kicking up with winds up like 30 miles an hour. But yeah, if you guys like content like this, please like the video to let me know. If you have any picks for cards that are what you think criminally underused or underrated, please drop them in the comments below. I'd love to read your guys' thoughts. I'm loving all of the interaction I'm getting on my Day Zero build, so thank you guys so much for checking those out. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I've got more deck builds coming, some more competitive than not strictly Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm going to be delving into some older characters as well. And I've got another decently sized project in the pipeline now, because I hate myself, and I want to do more for you guys to help grow this wonderful game and the community that we have. So any support you guys could give, I would absolutely adore that. But until next time, guys, take care.